Welcome, welcome, welcome to Level Up with Google Forms. Google Forms is my absolute favorite Google tool. I use it probably 3 or 4 times a day. I like to say Google Forms is my boyfriend. I don't know when we're going to get married. How about you just mind your own business? But Google Forms is my boyfriend. I love Google Forms. Yay. And I'm so happy that Sarah is going to show us how to level up with Google Forms. So no basics here, all about leveling up. So who am I, you may say, or you may ask? I am Dr. Desiree Alexander, and I am the founder of Educator Alexander Consulting. So I am your host for today. I'm happy to be here with you. This is all of the different ways that you can contact me. If you're watching this video on the YouTube channel, hello, welcome. You don't get a certificate, but you do get the knowledge. So welcome. Right underneath the video in the description is where you will find the resource. So if we're talking about stuff, you have access to it. It's right underneath the video. What are some upcoming webinars we have? We're not done leveling up with you. We have 2 next week. Monday is all about drawings and Jamboard, and Tuesday is all about Google Sites, and y'all love them all. I don't use drawings as much, but love drawings, love Google Sites, and love Jamboard. So come and learn how to level up with those. Monday and Tuesday, you do have to register separately for each class, so keep that in mind. Tomorrow, do you see how much learning like we have today? Tomorrow, Monday, when do I work? I don't know. It's just constant learning. Tomorrow, we have inclusion tech hacks. So if you're looking at, we all teaching an inclusion classroom, right? Even if you think you don't, you do. So we all use this technology. Let's learn how to use it to help all of our students with Jessica. And then I'm going to be teaching at the Teach Tech Conference. It is a $40 conference. It's pretty much $10 a day if you use the code at the bottom with friends. So it is a paid thing. It's a 4-day conference. I may have one Teach Tech registration to give away at the end of this. I don't know, but I'm just saying, there you go. So you can come and see me there for 2 of the days. Creating Your Digital Library, July 17th at Change Global, the original, don't get it twisted, 24-hour virtual conference is back. You can no longer sign up to present. All of the spots are full, but you can sign up to attend. It is so much fun. And we have games and you win prizes. Like, come and check us out. Financial literacy for educators. I want that one. July 31st. Bouncing back to school with Bunsey. So that's going to be August 21st. This is a new one. This is a new one. Yay! Equity is not an add-on. This is a crew that we came together using Nearpod and vocabulary, and we did a small webinar about equity, and then we did another one, and then we did another one, and then we did ISTE, and then we did, so now we're just like a little traveling group. And I was like, we got to go to Educator Alexander webinars. So yay, everybody agreed to do it. And we're going to be talking about equity is not an add-on. Cannot wait. It's always a good conversation. And that's going to be a 2-hour one, so we can have some discussion. Infusing digital reading and writing tools into however you teach with Dr. Hines. I'm going to be at TCCA in Texas, in Houston, Texas on the 30th. Hopefully we'll be in person. Hopefully. So we shall see, but hopefully we will be. And then we have probably the last one of the year, since it's in December 4th, Google Educator Certifications Panel. Notice Sarah's on there. So they're all going to be here talking about their experiences with becoming a Google trainer, a Google innovator, and a Google coach. So it should be a really this fun, because if you know any of these people, you know they bring the fun. So it should be a kind of chaotic and fun webinar that I'm waiting to even see it. So those are all of the different webinars that you can go and sign up for right now. We do have a couple of more in the works. I have a couple of phone calls to make, and people keep filling out the form. And if somebody wants to teach and help teachers, I'm never going to say no to that. So go and sign up for those webinars. But you know what? Even though I like the sound of my own voice, it's not about me. It's time to get to what we came here for, and that is leveling up with Google Forms.
Thank you, Desiree. Hello, everyone. Excited to be here for our 4th installment of Leveling Up. We've already done docs and sheets and slides, and now we are in forms. And if you notice, I'm wearing my purple. I do like to try to coordinate with the application that I am using. So when you're looking back at any of these videos, which I've got our website up, and this will stay up long beyond our summer series next week. It'll stay up, and we've even nested down at the very, very bottom. If you go all the way to the bottom, you're going to find, I'm scrolling down. Here is where Desiree was referring to. You can click on the image or the register here, and you can register for next week's with drawings and Jamboard. You can also register for Google Sites, which will be on Tuesday. That is a personal favorite of mine too. And then if you are looking for any of the introductions, like Desiree said very clearly at the beginning, we are leveling up with our tools. I do refer to some of the basic ideas, some of the introduction tools and applications for some of these, but really taking those pieces and moving forward, moving beyond just creating a form for a survey purpose, which is truly its intention. It's a survey tool. It was not intended to be used in many of the different ways that we are going to see today, and that many of you probably are already using Google Forms. But all of the introductions that we did last summer, 2020, and the presentation resources are linked right below them, is all right here, as well as being on Desiree's YouTube channel, which you can go there for as well. So if you're looking for any of the presentation resources for today or any of the other webinars that we've done so far, notice they're going to be linked in buttons right here with this, with the cute little picture that Desiree made for us. So I'm going to open this up, and what it actually does is it takes you to a Wakelet collection, and Wakelets are great. It's a tool that I absolutely love, but then you can bring together links and resources of all different kinds. And when you scroll down, this is going to be the presentation resource when you're thinking of like, how did Sarah create this? Where did she go? How did she guide us through this? This is the link that you need to go and look for. And when you open it up, and if you've been to any of the webinars that I've done before, you know exactly what it's going to open up into. It's going to open up into a Google form. Now, we'll get to why I do that in a second, but let me backtrack a second. I am Sarah Kiefer, and Desiree is my innovator coach. We made that connection almost 2 years ago. It's just shy of 2 years ago that I met Desiree in New York City, where I was honored to be a part of that academy. I love all things Google, but what I love even more is working with teachers and working with their students and taking technology. Obviously, Google is a big passion of mine, but we all use different technologies, whether it's a projector or an overhead camera or document camera or whatever you use, and making it make the learning better. That is truly my passion. I do try to blog once a week at my website, techyoucando.com. I have a little poster behind me because that is my passion. Not only do I love doing that on a daily basis, but I also love sharing it out. You can find out all kinds of information at the very bottom of this, not just for Desiree, but for myself down here. We always love seeing the tweets that are shared out during and after these presentations. And then long beyond that, I actually just got an email yesterday from a lady that took part in our webinar series last year. And she just said, hey, Sarah, we made this switch in our district. Do you have any suggestions or ideas? And I was just like, wow, like she remembered me. Always honored to help answer any kinds of questions that you guys have. We all know that the more brains, the better. So with that, let's move into Google Forms. So when you click on this particular link, it's going to open up as a Google form. And I do this because I want you to immediately see that Google Forms is not just a survey tool. That is what it was created to be. But as a teacher, I'd be willing to bet that you've used it as a quiz. You may have used it as an order form, depending on what any of your roles are. You've probably responded to plenty of surveys. I know that it's a great tool in my district where we ask, what are you in need of? Or, sometimes we're going to have a luncheon, right? And people will use a Google form to collect that information. It really is a great data collector. Today, I'm going to completely twist it around. And this is my level up. And I did this last year and I found it very successful. Is we're going to take it and we're going to use Google Forms in a completely different way. We're going to use it to do our learning. So this is where you can come back and all of these different options are going to be here for you. And it's going to take you to that particular idea, that particular level up. So now you guys can see this. And if you are on this particular form, you are welcome to click around. I'm going to kind of just go in order just because it kind of makes a little bit more sense. But always feel free to kind of diverge off. And Desiree will pop in with questions when it's appropriate. And if you have questions, obviously, like Desiree said, put them in the chat, answer them for each other. I am clearly not the only one that has answers. As we've seen in other webinars, it's always great to have that audience participation and helping each other out. So first of all, let's get started. This first one, which level up do you want to explore? So this is almost kind of set up as a choose your own adventure, shall we? So when you come back to this later, you can go through at your own pace and in your own, if you just wanted to pick out one of them and refresh your memory, go for it. So if you're new to forms, you can easily click on this first one. It'll take you to the next screen and it's going to give you the video. It's going to give you the resource. And we even did a second webinar using forms as online assessments. So if you really, really want to dig in deep, we'll touch on some other things today about using it as assessments. But if you want to dig in deep, here's a 2-hour webinar that you can watch with the resource below. And then I always tuck in my Wakelets, and this is the one for forms. But down here at the bottom, this is a pretty cool feature of Google Forms. This is one of the reasons that I really fell in love with Google Forms is I'm ready to go back. I'm going to select this and I'm going to learn something new. Or if I'm completely done, I can click this and I'll end the form and I can walk away. But I'm going to go back to the beginning. Click on it and it's going to take me right back to the beginning. And that might be something that you sit here and go, gosh, how did you do that? That is a great level up. And we're going to get to that in a minute, but I am super excited. I have to get to this one before we start anything else, because if you have been working with Google in any length of time, you know that the one constant for Google is that they are constantly changing. A lot of people might say, it's not so great. Like that. Okay, some of the changes take a little bit more of adjustment than others, but Google Forms is coming out with some pretty awesome updates. You may or may not have them. They kind of roll them out in a, not everybody gets them all at one time, right? Like, and I can't think of the word, like it just kind of rolls out to some people. And some of it is controlled by your Google admin. Some Google admins want the new releases immediately. Some of them say, let's give it a little bit of time. Let's let the other people be the guinea pigs and we'll pick it up kind of after 2 weeks or so and let the kinks get worked out of it. And again, if you're working in your personal Google account, that might just depend on when it pushes through. So we're going to get to a couple of the updates. They just did what was called the Anywhere School just a couple weeks ago, 2-3 weeks-ish. And they announced a couple of pretty awesome and very much requested updates for Google Forms. I wish they would have made this in purple. That would have just made a whole lot more sense. But they used green and they are going to add, number one, 20 new fonts. If you're a font lover like I am, currently in Google Forms, you only have, I think it's 4 options. You will be getting the ability to have additional fonts. I still don't think that it's going to be, you can add in whatever fonts that you want. I do believe it's going to be a pre-created list of options for you. But if you kind of walk down that road, and you kind of know how Google operates, sometimes they release like a little bit and then it becomes everything. Don't ask me why they haven't just already done that anyway. I don't know. I just roll with it, right? And then here is the biggie. It is big, and I'm going to zoom in just a tad. It is the auto saving. Have any of you been in the middle of filling out a form and your internet goes out? You lose everything. Have any of you been giving an assessment at school using a Google form and the time runs out, or it becomes a fire drill, or something happens, or your students need more time than what you were anticipating and class is over? Yeah, Google Forms doesn't save until now. It's rolling out. It should be coming well before the start of this August, September-ish school year time. I did link the blog post where they're sharing a lot of this information, and they'll share more. You'll see I kind of shaded out the extras, but this auto saving your progress in Google Forms is huge. And I want to really point out to everyone, this is a huge way that we can all level up, and we can all level up together. Down here in the bottom left-hand corner, I hope you can see this. There's a report a problem down here. But in a lot of applications, there's going to be that feedback piece. Please continually give Google feedback, because they do operate in large part. These changes are from requests that have been made to Google. Just keep that in mind, that if there's something that you'd really love, I'm not going to promise you that they're going to do it, but they do respond to that feedback. So again, new fonts, it's going to auto save. And then the third smaller one here, which we'll see where it's going to kind of impact, is a simplified settings view. And I really do like what I'm hearing about it. I don't believe that I have access to it just yet, but if I do, I'll share and I'll point that out specifically. So again, that's it with the updates. Desiree, any quick questions on any of the updates that maybe I can answer, but probably not, because there's just not a whole lot of questions you can ask.
Well, we do have one. Is it 20 new fonts or additional style options for existing fonts?
The way they phrase it is 20 new fonts. I'm thinking that they're just adding in 20. And again, does that mean like you're talking, right now it's like the script, the plain, and like what I've got on my screen. Some of you may even already have access to it because of the way they roll things out. I don't believe that I do.
And have you heard about any new backgrounds being added?
No, but we will see how you can customize the color. Right now, all of this, what I would call the gray space, I'm not sure if you'd exactly consider that. It looks gray to me. You can kind of customize that color. You can, within reason, right? That's where you have to go. You don't have the whole thing. You can kind of pick, but you can absolutely 100%, like up here, this is not something that Google, my little header up here, this is not something that Google created. I created this and I put it up there. So, and hint, on Monday, I'll show you exactly how you can create that. Come back on Monday. Does that help?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So now I'm going to go back to the beginning, and we're going to learn something else completely different. I just had to get those updates in there. I was super excited when I heard about those. Now, Google Forms, this is an area where, especially given the group of students, the age level of the students that you're working with, being able to add audio, video, images, this is huge. And this can really change how forms behave and are usable in your particular classrooms. I'm not going to lie, just constantly seeing text gets kind of old, right? So we want to spice it up a little bit. So let's do that. Let's learn how we can add audio, video, and images to forms. And again, you might say, Sarah, that's not too much of a level up, but it is. Are you with me here? So first of all, this is huge. This is huge. And you're going to have to kind of stretch yourself a little bit. And depending on how much control you have over your own account, you may or may not be able to do this. And I don't always particularly love sharing these ideas, but I absolutely adore the extension Moat. If you can get the Moat extension, go get it. Like, just do it. Don't Don't wait, don't hesitate. Sarah's telling you to do this. Moat is hands down something that has just changed the way I think of feedback, the way that I think of directions and creation and all that, especially for the younger group that I work with, but also for any student, any colleague. The Moat extension allows you to add your voice, a recording of your voice, and it's in forms now. It's wonderful. It really is wonderful. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go into the editing side of this form, and I'm going to show you how we can add it into, actually, we're going to jump into this form down here, because what I like to do is really jump in deep and show you how this stuff all actually works. So the Moat extension, I've got a link right here. Add it on. It's wonderful. If you're able to get your students also the extension, and again, I have no control over that. That's totally your district's decision. There are ages and there are privacy concerns and all that. You do need to go through the proper channels in order to be able to do that. If your kids can have the Moat extension too, rock on, even better. So let's go to this form, and you're going to be able to view this form too. This is what it's going to look like for you right now. And look, I've got the Moat extension included on my account. I've already added it. So look, as a student, this is the view that a student's going to have if they're able to have the Moat extension. And I say big if, because again, I know we're all working with a broad range, and I cannot stress that enough, that as a teacher, we do have to be respectful of our district's decisions on the items that we do or don't add to our students' accounts. So I'm just putting that out there. If you can do this, wonderful. So as a student filling out this form for my teacher, all I have to do is click this little button. I can record my voice. Let's see how easy that is. The most difficult part of Google Forms is all of the typing and the shortness and the confines of what I can do. And it adds it right in. It's beautiful. I can replay it here, changing the volume settings of it. If I don't like it after I listen to it, I can always remove it. Okay, everybody with me? So again, that's the student side of it. Now I'm going to jump in, because I think a huge level up for a lot of us teachers is, what if you're working with students who maybe have some reading special needs, or you're working with a younger crowd, or you just want to give your kids the ability to hear your own voice. As a teacher, you can insert audio directions for them too. So I'm going to jump to the editing side. You're not going to be able to do this, but at least Desiree is willing to record this, and she'll share it out later. So this is the back end of a Google form. And what I want to do is I want to record this information right here. Let's add audio scenario. Here we go. I want to add that in for my students to be able to hear. Again, I'm going to use my Moat extension up here. In fact, if I click on it, because I've added the Moat extension, it also shows up down here. Now, I will say I have found that every certain amount of time, I want to kind of figure about 2 weeks, I do have to kind of re-log in. I do have to give it permission to continue using my account. So that's just a heads up. So I'm going to click and record, and I'm just literally going to record what I have typed here, because we all know that reading what the written text, as well as like being able to hear it, rock on. Let's add audio. Scenario. I want to record the questions for better accessibility for my responders. I'm going to use the Moat extension. It's already added to my account. So it's just going to pop right in there. And now if I go back and I preview my form, or anyone that's watching this video, when you click on it from here and you refresh this, you're going to find that there it is. And you can just listen to it. You ready? Now my form has been updated because I've reopened it up. It's going to take me to this page. Let's add audio. Scenario. I want to record the questions for better, right? How awesome is that? Now, it does pop you out and kind of thing. So there's some getting used to. There's a little bit of training that's going to happen. but you get it, right? Adding that audio is as easy as clicking that button, recording it, and boom, you're done. You're ready to go. Moving on to the next one. You could do that for every single one of these. I could click in here. What I would personally do is I would come down here maybe and add the description and add that in on the description. I've got the little moat icon right here. Go wild and crazy with this. Think about how much better your forms could be. Do you have to do it for every question? No, not necessarily, depending on what your goal is for this particular form. If your goal is to see what your students are able to read and respond, including audio may not be the best thing for you. But if you want to make sure that your students are able to listen, and that is maybe an accommodation or an accessibility feature that your students need, Moat is an awesome way to go. And it's free. It's free. Now, I have an account right now that's upgraded a little bit because some people have signed up through my account. So I have a minute 30. But I will say, I think there's a lot of value in the 30-second recording in the free account. Because especially if it's a question like this, you don't want to be going on and on and on. That 30 seconds should be enough. Awesome, right? Fantastic. So let's go back to our form. That's adding audio. That's a huge level up. Students being able to respond via audio, again, a huge level up. Please, again, check with your district. What about this next one? Adding in a video. Wouldn't that be awesome to be able to add in a video and have students watch the video and then somehow respond to that video prompt, whether it's a video that you've created yourself or it's a video that you've found. Guess what? YouTube works on there too. Again, if you have access to it and all that kind of thing. Putting in a video for your students to watch and then be able to respond to a question. Great. Awesome. And when I figured this out a handful of years ago, really changed my social studies classroom. So here we go. Let's add in a video. And again, I've got a little scenario right here. I want my students to watch a very short video and respond to the prompt below. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, knowing that we only have 2 hours together, I did do some of the legwork ahead of time so that when I went to search for a video, I kind of already know what video I am looking for. And then some of the other ones, like I've already got the question. We don't need to be sitting here typing out questions. You guys all understand how to create that in a Google form. If not, please pop that in the chat. I'd be happy to answer those questions, or maybe somebody else would. So based on this particular question, I'm looking on YouTube for a George Washington biography for the kids to watch. And knowing that it's a class period, kind of want to aim for like a very small video, not a 42-minute biography, just something kind of quick. I want to see if the students can watch the video and do a little bit of comprehending with what the video is displaying. So you've even got that question in there. So over on the right-hand side, if you can see my little toolbar over here, this is where the magic happens with a Google form. This is where you are inserting your questions, inserting your videos and images and all that. It's in the toolbar. Now, again, I guess I should also preface that with the size of your screen. It may not be over here to the right. I've zoomed in a lot before and it shows up down up at the bottom. So just pay attention. If it's just because it's trying to better fit your screen. So obviously hover over any of these. It's going to tell you what that tool is able to do. So I want to add a video. And I'm going to come in here and I'm going to search YouTube for a George Washington bio. And a little tip that I have found along the way, and it was actually my middle daughter that taught this to me. She noticed that if you put 4 kids behind it, a lot of times it gives you, again, depending on the age range that you're talking about, it kind of gives you a little bit different of a flavor of your results. Hey, there it is, that 5-minute biography that I was looking for. I'm just going to select it. I'm going to add it in here. And if you notice it, go ahead and pops it right on in there. And just puts it there, right? Like, that's great. Hopefully we all knew how to do that. But did you know that if you click on the video and you get the blue square around it, you can actually change the size of that video. This is pretty awesome. So if you want it to be a little bit bigger, now again, when you share the form with your students, there probably is the ability, you can't see it right here, for them to click on the YouTube link and be able to go out to YouTube. Okay, that's a different conversation for the day. Here we go. You made the video bigger. Now watch this. If I click off the video, do you see this little circle with my skinny snowman? And you guys have been hopefully to enough of these webinars that you know that when you see a skinny snowman, you know that that means it's going to give you some more options. Don't ever hesitate. Click on it, see what it gives you. And here you go. I always love putting my videos right there in the smack center of this question box. I don't know why. I just feel like it looks better. That's just me. And then depending on, I guess, your preference, you may want to put something in where it says untitled video. Me personally, I like to use this as like the directions. So I would put in here, watch this video and then answer the question below. And then I can click off of there. Boom. I've inserted a video. I've changed the size of it. I've realigned it, and I've inserted directions right here. You could always just write George Washington biography. You don't even have to put anything in there. That is optional. Notice though that there is no like requirement, because this is not an actual question. This is just you're inserting it. And then let's see what this looks like now from a student's perspective. So I'm going to actually close out that view of the form. I'm going to come up here. This is my favorite. I go to this eyeball all the time. Oh, and while I'm here, the update that's coming, I don't have it. The settings gear wheel, they're going to be adding a third tab right here. So you're going to have questions where I'm at now, responses where when people fill out this form, that's where I'll see what it is that they filled out. And then there's going to be the third tab here that says settings. I heard that and I was like, you know what? That makes a ton of sense. I don't have to come up to the gear wheel, which is not a big deal, but I do like questions, responses, and then the settings. And it's going to give what they call a simplified view of the settings. So I imagine it's probably more just like boxes right on top of each other, as opposed to going into the settings like I do now, and you have the 3 different tabs. That's just my guess. I haven't actually seen a mock-up of it. So if you've seen a mock-up of it, maybe you can let us all know in the chat. Is it still the 3 tabs within that settings, or does it just kind of go boom, boom, boom? So let's preview this. Actually, I can close out my Mote tab too. So there's my Mote. I can respond with Mote. And here we go. I put in the video right here. You can see your kids can still click watch on YouTube. Just have a conversation with the kids. And then when they click that, it's going to start playing the video. They sit there and they watch it. And then they come down and they're going to answer the question. Wonderful, right? Being able to include media when we're asking our students to either be learning. Think about, you could do a preview of information. Here, watch this video. Check it out. Let's go back. One more piece of media that we're going to talk about adding is adding images. So obviously videos are wonderful, but sometimes just adding an image is a wonderful piece too. I always think of like art class and let's do some analyzation of this artwork. Or obviously I spent 7 years teaching social studies and I loved analyzing some of these historical images, or using a map and asking kids questions about that. You could go crazy with this. You could have a picture of a math problem or a science experiment. Really, you could do a lot of different things.
Sarah, before you move on to images, can we ask 2 questions?
Absolutely. Sorry.
One is about Mote. When the students go to listen to the Mote, do they have to listen to it in the other window, or can they listen to it while they're reading the directions with you?
That is one where it has always popped out to another window for me. Now, I think depending on the tier of account that you have, it could just play right in your forms, but that would indicate to like that you're in the top tier. If you're in the top tier 2, there's also the ability to have transcription available. So if it does pop you out to that other tab, the transcription of your voice is right there still on the screen. That's one of those that there are 3 tiers of Moat accounts at the moment. I like to kind of just point out more of the free version of it. I'm not a big fan of it opening up in different tabs, but yeah.
Tiers, you mean payment plans?
Right. There's the free, there's the unlimited, and then there's, I think they call it premium or VIP. And then the 2 unlimited and the premium, those are paid plans. Again, like I never try to think of companies that they shouldn't get paid for it, right? Like their product is phenomenal. I just know that everybody's budget's always completely different. So I always try to demonstrate the free plan first.
And if you play it and move away from the tab, does it continue to play? That was another question.
So you're asking like if this plays in a different tab. Let's do that. I'm going to go ahead and I'm just going to paste that Moat because it's a URL, right? Paste that in a new tab. I'm going to go ahead and play it, and then I'm going to come back. Let's add audio. Scenario. I want to record the questions for better accessibility for my responders. I'm going to use the Moat.
Perfect. She says, thank you so much.
You're
and
welcome.
With the video, when you put the video into the Google form, can I play it right from here?
So like me as the editor?
Yes.
I don't think so. Because when you go to add in here, like you're just able to select it. I don't believe you're able to watch it.
So when can we watch it?
Oh, so if you wanted to preview it, what I would suggest that you do is come up to your eyeball. I think I already have it open here. And then if I play it now, you can preview it if that's what you're aiming for.
And thank you so much.
You're welcome. All right, so I'm going to close out that Moat tab. I end up with about 8,000 different tabs open. And by the way, if you didn't know this, if you're a tabaholic like myself, and you end up like feeling like your computer is kind of, slow, it's kind of dragging, probably because you have 8,000 different tabs open. So I do try to be aware of that. All right, so let's go back in. So good questions, audio, video, and images. So here's my scenario. I want to do 2 things. Okay, 2 different ways that you can add in images. I'm going to add an image as a reference for this particular question right here. Monet painted these. Which one is your favorite? And then as an image as a reference point for the whole thing. Okay, so what we're going to do is in this question, the question asks, Monet painted all of these. Which one is your favorite? I don't need text for my answer options. Did you know that you can add in images? And it's right there. It's within your question. It does need to be, well, I shouldn't say it doesn't. It works super awesome with a multiple choice question. And you can add as many options as you want. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to add in an image. And I'm going to do a Google image search, which we're all familiar with, right? A new tab and you can search for images, or in slides and docs where you can open up the site and insert images and bring them in. This is your Google image search. So I'm going to search for, I've got to spell. Search for Monet, and maybe I want to give that one. And it's going to pop it into option 1. Now notice up here, it does say option 1. You don't have to have any text. You can, like if you knew what the name of that photo was, I don't. You could add that in here. So option 2, I want to go back to my Google image searching. Maybe I'll struggle with spelling. It's an all-time thing for me. It's not just in the summer. I'd like to say it's just in the summer, but it's not. So there's another one. And again, I'm just picking something simple so that we can, goodness gracious, see what this looks like. insert. I could go on and on and on, right? Now, again, it's one thing to add them in and then you go, well, what in the heck does this even look like? Let's see what it looks like. So to do that, just like we previewed the video, you got to go up into your preview mode, which is the eyeball up there. And there's our audio. Here's our video. And then look at what a nice job it does. It tiles it for us. And it does say option 1, option 2, option 3, and the students would just select which one is their favorite. Anybody thinking of a way that you could extend this question using one of, I don't know, one of the other options that we talked about? What if you had the next question having the students explain why? And again, if they were able to use that mode extension, they could say, hey, Mrs. Kiefer, I really like the sunflowers because flowers are my favorite thing in the world. Done recording that audio. Perfect, right? Beautiful. So that was one thing that we can do to add images. The other one is switching your brain completely, because I know teachers wear a lot of different hats, myself included. And what if you were doing a fundraiser, if you were doing a class t-shirt project, if you were having a class field trip, or some other reason why you would create shirts to sell, or maybe you just need to collect sizes, but you wanted to share what the actual shirt looked like. So this one, we're going to think in terms of creating an order form, but we want to be able to display to our families or whomever it is that you're sending it out to. Maybe you're doing a staff t-shirt and you want to give them an image of what that shirt looks like. This time, we're going to go out to the toolbar to the right side and we're going to select that insert image. And again, here is where you have some options. If you had the actual t-shirt, you could use the camera, hold it up and take a picture of it. If you're using a designer, a graphic designer for your t-shirts, and maybe they send you the image and it has a URL with it, you could insert it by the URL here. Maybe you already have a photo of it and it's on your desktop and you just want to pull it over. Maybe it's a photo that you've already got of that shirt in your Google Drive. You can add it in there. I'm just going to go into a Google image search and just search for like a generic t-shirt. And we're just going to see what that ends up looking like. We'll pick this question mark one. We're going to go ahead and insert it. And again, just like with your video, it's going to go ahead and pop it right in there. I like that it's a giant one. But again, if you say, oh, that's too big, or maybe the image is small, you can use the corners to, again, adjust the size with it. That skinny snowman's going to show up again. I do like myself that center option. And if you go, oops, I picked the wrong picture or whatever, you can change it right here, completely remove it. And again, you could add in a t-shirt design, some sort of title for our field. And then you have a lovely image of the shirt that you're either selling or that you're giving to everybody and they want to preview what it looks like. And then you might say, well, what does that look like as far as it on a form? Go back up to the eyeball. Scroll all the way to the top. Let's go to the eyeball. And you get down to that point. And notice how it is different if you're adding images as your answer options versus adding in the image just as a graphic element to your form. It looks pretty nice, and it's a nice size, depending on how big you stretch it. Question on images? I'm going to take that as a no, and just as a heads up, you want to know how to create that order form? I got you. Stick around. Okay, so we've added audio, video, and images. Now, this is my form that I created so that we could do that. I'm going to close this form out, which takes me back to here. You guys will be able to see the form as it stands after adding in the audio, after adding in the video, and after adding in those images. When you click on this link, you'll be able to see that particular form, but I'm ready to go back and let's learn something new. All right, so I do like when I come back to here, it does show me right where I left off, AKA it left my answer bubbled in, right? Like that's a form. Right now, that is my answer. So now I want to dive in a little bit deeper with the settings and the customization. So when you're talking about how do you do the colors and different fonts and things like that, we'll see where my account is at. And again, everybody's account's probably at different stages. I am not one of those that's the immediately, boom, give it to me the second it comes out. So let's dive in a little bit deeper, shall we? And you may say, Sarah, settings is not an area that really is a level up. It actually is, because your settings are going to drive so much of how your form is shared or not shared, what it looks like. And I'm not just talking about like all forms are going to look like this, right? Keep that in mind. We're not talking about making it look like a Google Doc, because it's not a Google Doc, it's a Google form. So when we're talking about settings, we're talking about that gear wheel, and soon it'll be the tab. There's tons of options, tons and tons and tons and tons of options here. So what we're going to do is I'm going to actually jump into the editing side of this. This is we'll call it the student view. So this is the participants view, the responders view of what the form looks like on your end. And we're going to jump in and we're going to talk about each of these, but I want to be able to pull up the settings as we're talking about them, so that it gives you a much better view of this. All right, you ready? We're going to leave that. All right. So we are actually jumping in to the backside of the entire form that I've created. Did I want to do that? Hang on. Let me see if let's dive in deeper again. Hang tight. Don't want to give away any of my secrets. No, we're going to go into a new one. I promise you'll see the inside of the form that I created for this presentation. But I don't want to overwhelm anyone at the very beginning here. So let's go into this form. And again, this is the inside, or the participants view. Let's go into settings. Okay, are we ready? I'm actually going to zoom out just a tiny bit. Okay, so for now, here's the settings. Remember, it's going to be shifting down to here. So if you're watching this in the future, there might be a settings option here. So let's jump into the gear wheel. There are 3 different tabs on here. And again, this is what drives the viewing, potential viewing, or the restricted viewing of your Google form. This top option here, as a teacher, if you are giving this as an assessment, or you are doing any kind of collection and you want to be able to send something back to the people that have responded, I do highly recommend this collect emails option. It does throw in the automatic requiring of an email address. It's not a bad thing, not at all. And as a teacher, I was in a 7th and 8th grade classroom. You can imagine some might be a little bit of tricksters. I honestly never dealt with cheating as far as a Google form goes, but I was always thinking of potential, right? So if I collected their email addresses and they're automatically logged into their school account, it automatically collected their school email. I also always asked for their name, first and last name, because I wanted to be able to sort for grading purposes, right? I always like to put things in alphabetical order. So if I collected the email and I asked them to type their name in, if those 2 things ever didn't match, I knew I needed to investigate a little bit more, right? So it was always my little method of double checking. Now, if I was sending it out to maybe parents to collect information, which I also did on a regular basis, and I got an email address, a lot of times I had no idea who the student was. I had no idea how to address the parent. If this was a mother, a father, a grandparent, an aunt, a custodian, whomever is the guardian for this particular child. So I always also asked a name. That allowed me to feel a little bit more comfortable in reaching back out and saying, hey, Sarah, I got this test result back for little Emily, and I just wanted to have a conversation with you about it. But I knew how to address the person. So I loved collecting the emails. It was one less worry or concern for me. The response receipts, I love these little question marks. If you've never investigated these, hover over them. They do give you a lot of information. It will allow the person who's filling out the form to get a copy. And we've all done that before. We all have gotten copies of, okay, thank you for filling out this Google form. Here are your responses. You can allow that, and either whether they choose to or you force it on them, depending again on your goal of your form, you have that as an option. And again, I will say, when I first started with Google Forms, and Desiree, I know you always talk about forms as your boyfriend, all of these options were not there. Google is constantly reinventing itself. It's constantly updating. It's constantly making changes. These response receipts were not always able to be customized in this manner. And quite honestly, I can't even tell you if it was an option to turn on response receipts at the very beginning. I do not remember that. I do remember collecting emails, but not always this response receipt. So this is very evident of the evolution of a Google form too. So down here is where you can restrict. And again, this is a huge level up. Huge. If you don't understand the ability to restrict a form, you're missing out, because this would, within a school domain, if you're giving an assessment, which Google Forms is very popular for, I always restricted it. So the kids had to be logged into their school account. It was never an option for them to take it with a personal account. They had to use their school account. Now, on the flip side, I never restricted it if it was something I was sending to the parents. Parents aren't going to have that school account. Keep those things in mind. And then also, you can limit your students to only being able to respond once. If you don't click this button, they can respond over and over and over again. Again, just depends on the goal of your particular form. And then down here at the bottom, these are ones that I think people just kind of tend to leave alone, but they're really beneficial. If you want your students to be able to, or if somebody's filling out, say, like an order form for a t-shirt, and you want them to be able to edit it later, maybe they made a mistake, you can certainly select this, and it allows them to edit the form, their submissions to your form after the fact, as well as allowing them to see a summary chart and any of the text responses. Again, what is the goal of your form? Those are the things that you need to ask yourself. This second tab, the middle tab right here that says presentation, this is showing the progress bar, is a pretty simple, just at the bottom, kind of gives them an idea if you've asked 75 questions, where they're at on that progress bar. You could shuffle the question order. This is a wonderful tool. I used it all of the time when I would create assessments for my students in classroom. I didn't shuffle the questions if I was doing seeking information from a parent. Don't shuffle the order. Sometimes things don't make sense then. But if you have a 10-question multiple choice quiz and you don't want two students sitting next to each other taking the exact same quiz, even though they're the exact same questions, Forms will automatically shuffle your question order. Clarify within a particular section. If you split your form up into multiple sections, it's not taking something from the last one and jumbling it up in the first one. It shuffles the question order in a particular section. We'll talk about sections down the road in a little bit. If you have questions about it, feel free to ask me now. It'll just be a lot easier to show you later on down the road. And then also here, showing a link to submit another response. Obviously, if you want them to submit over and over and over again, leave this checked. Otherwise, uncheck it. And then they're not going to be able to just quickly be able to resubmit. This is my hands down favorite piece to the whole presentation, to the whole settings. Like once you get, these people can see it or can't see it. This confirmation message, huge, can we say huge level up right here? Because this is you're in a classroom giving a quiz. Student finishes the quiz. They submit it. They always get that page where it says, thank you for your submission or whatever. You can totally customize the information that that student gets, all of your students get, because you can't do it per student. It's just for the whole form. But what I would always do is, thank you for filling this out, or great job, you finished this quiz. Now I want you to pull out your textbook and read blah, blah, blah. Or go ahead and go back to Schoology or Google Classroom or wherever you are housing your other activities. I want you to do activity number 10, or, this was such a long assessment. Go ahead, just put your head down. Whatever it is that you feel is necessary to give your students for that next step after they've completed their quiz. And then you don't have kids completing the quiz. Ms. Kiefer, what do I do now? You've built those directions right in there. You can even add links in here. Link to another quiz, link to a video to watch, link to a preview slide deck of the next chapter or the next unit that you're going to talk about. Whatever it is that you want your students to move on to, you can tuck it in right here. Now, what if it's not an assessment that you're using this form for? The other big topic that we've talked about here is an order form. You're not collecting money necessarily through this Google form. At least I choose not to, but you can put in your confirmation message. Thank you for your order. Please make sure that you submit your, cash or check to Sarah Kiefer in room 300 by such and such date. You can add in further information for whomever fills out that form. If you have any questions, please contact, put in an email address, put in a phone number, or mail your check to and put in an address or something like that. You can use this confirmation message for so many different reasons. And what I see a lot of times is it's just completely overlooked and people don't do it. Please make sure that you use it, even if it's just a great job, you've completed the quiz, high five or something. Those little messages go a long way with students. Desiree, question at all on any of those so far?
I think we have everything answered.
Awesome. So the third tab on here is quizzes. And this is where, again, we're in the settings and we want to dive a little bit deeper. This form that I have that we're working in right now, adding in audio, video, and images is not something that you're going to make into a quiz, right? But if you ever were creating a form and you want to make it a quiz, it's a matter of clicking that. It's going to allow for adding points and auto grading. You can also use this locked mode. This has not been around, let's see, maybe a year and a half. It's been around. And a lot of teachers, especially older students, really do like this. Here's a big word of caution. It only works on managed Chromebooks. So it has to be a Chromebook that your school is providing and maintaining and controlling the settings of for students. This is not something like that you would ever turn on the locked mode for sending something to a parent. Okay, keep that in mind. This is only, this locked mode area right here is only for when you're giving an assessment in your classroom and you're using Chromebooks that your school provides. I have to make that big and clear because I've seen a lot of questions from teachers over the last year and a half. Well, how do I make locked mode work? And the question always is, are you on school managed Chromebooks? Well, no, it's the kids bring their own, or they're at home and they're using their own devices. Locked mode doesn't work on those guys. It's just the way that it is created. You can click on this learn more always and find out a lot more information. And then just by clicking a button right there, you can turn it on and you're good to go. Now down here, this gets into like some of the scary parts for teachers. Because it is a Google form and you're collecting this data digitally, big question is, how do the kids get it back? What about their grades? Where do they see it? How do they see it? That all comes in your settings for your quizzes. So they can immediately see their grade after they submit, or you change it to later after you, the teacher, has reviewed that. Now, again, keep in mind, we're in a very isolated scenario here where we are a classroom teacher, we are creating an assessment, and we are grading. Okay, so we've taken all of the options available for a form and we've narrowed it down to a very small portion of forms that we're talking about. I would highly suggest the manual review one if you have any kind of written short answer, extended response type questions, okay? If you send back a form immediately and it has any of those, I do believe that it marks them like wrong just because it's either right or wrong. And you can't auto grade any of those short answer, extended response that the students would do any kind of typing, or if they're recording their voice using, say, like Mote. Google Forms has no way of actually grading those. That's something that you, the teacher, comes in and you guys have to grade. So the manual review is an excellent one. And these are all options that you have that they can see the missed questions. Again, this little question mark down there, it says identify which questions were answered incorrectly. Notice it says identify. Then this one says show the correct answer for each question. So you could identify which ones are right or wrong. And then this one would give the correct answer. So maybe you want them to know what it is, but you don't want them to see the correct answer. You see how these kind of work together to give you a lot more abilities with what the kids see when they get back. And then here's your point value. If you leave it checked, they can see the total point value and what they received for that question. If you don't want them to, you just simply uncheck it and you move forward with the grading process. Okay, now I'm going to not make this a quiz because this particular form truly is not a quiz, but I wanted to go through those settings right when we're here. And I will save that. And then let's see what else we were going to talk about as far as, and I've just kind of briefly outlined each of those. You can always refer to any form and going into those tabs in your settings. And then the whole customization aspect of it. This is one of those nerdy, totally not 100% needed, but I feel like it's needed kind of abilities with Google Forms. It's going to jump us back into this. And your generic Google form is going to be very purple, right? I'm wearing purple. Forms are purple. The icon is purple. But you can customize some of it now and a little bit more of it coming down the pike. And you can customize it by coming here into your little artist palette wheel right here, customizing the theme. I can choose an image. And Google does a really nice job of giving you some pre-selected items here. But notice the upload button. If you've created something, you can always, well, hey, isn't that awesome? Monday, talking about Google Drawings, you can create your own forms banner up there and you can upload it and you can completely customize the look of your Google form, just like I did on mine up here. Used a Google drawing for that, uploaded it using the artist palette, upload, pulled it up from my computer, boom, there you go. If you've got photos ready to go, you could choose those. But it does give you some pre-selected themes and you can scroll through. Since it's purple, since it's a form, let's just stick with another purple item right here. And we're going to say insert. It will change your screen. It allows you to see that there. And then if you noticed, I probably should have pointed that out first. It does change your theme colors here, and it gives you a few options with your background colors here. So to the person that asked about customizing the background, this is the area that they consider your background. This is your header, and then the dark bluish purple bar right here is your theme color. You can select those and you can do some mixing and matching. And it does depend on if we were to choose a whole different theme. Notice my theme colors out here completely changed based on the theme that I had chosen out here. Let's see if we could pick something. Let's go dramatically different, right? Let's go to this book shelf. Okay, so the theme colors are dramatically different. Now, notice here, you can add a custom color, not on the background, but up here on the theme color, I can really kind of go, I love red. I love me some good red. So notice how I change that. I can always change the background back to a white. I can go to a pink. So there's customization within reason. And then here's where those additional fonts are going to show up. Right now, I still only have the 4. Like I said, the update says that they're going to give us 20 new ones. So you can imagine this list is going to grow. Again, it's not all of the 500 plus fonts that you can find out there for Google, but at least it's going to be 20 more and not 4. And I think there used to only be like a couple. I would say too, people may overlook or may go like, oh, I really like that decorative. It may look really nice. Again, please think about who it is that's filling these items out. The decorative tends to have more of like a script look. The younger you go with your students, the less likely it is that they're going to be able to necessarily read these. So really do consider your audience when you're selecting these different things. If you're ever doing something with your students and they're creating a form, point that out to them, because it's not something that they're going to necessarily just intuitively know. The other ones just give it a little bit different of a flavor. Desiree, any questions come up about customizing the theme, the backgrounds, and all those?
Not at this time.
Perfect. All right, so let's go back. Let's see what else we're talking about. Customization, and we are ready to go back, learn something new. And while it's loading, I'm going to take a quick drink. All right, this one's going to be a real quick one. Sharing your form. Anyone work on a team and you create a form and you want to use it with your students, your parents, and somebody else goes, "Ooh, I really like that. Can I have a copy of it?" Forms doesn't copy super easy. It takes a little bit of work. It's not like a Google Doc or Google Slide and you just share it and they go to file, make their own copy. It doesn't work like that because Forms is its own little product. So what we're going to do is I made a quick video, just published it today on my YouTube channel, how to share Google Forms. And when we did this last year, even went back and I looked at the video I had done last year, it's even changed from last year as to how you can share your form. It's not crazy hard. It just takes these particular steps. The best way that I found to do this is to do how I do it in the video. I have created a folder right here. And inside of this folder, I've made sure that this share setting is anyone with the link can view this, anything that's in this particular folder. So it's all driven by the share settings on my folder. And then I put the form in there. And then here's the beautiful piece to it. Are you ready? I'm going to change this form over here. This is what the video will show you. So what I need to do is I got to move this form into that folder. So let's see, let's add media. I'm going to come back here. Let's find the let's add media. I'm going to move it up into my shared forms, which now gives it that anyone with the link can view. I like to do a refresh. I don't know why. I just kind of feel like that just makes sure that it grabs that setting. And then up here in my URL bar, and if you've not learned any of these URL hacks, I highly suggest it. Tony Vincent, his website is Learning in Hand. He shares out. It's amazing. A lot of these really awesome little hacks. All you have to do at this point, delete those 4 letters, which spell edit, because I'm editing this form. I'm going to get rid of those. And I'm going to change it to template/preview. I love this URL hack. I use it all the time on pretty much anything that I ever want to share out. Hit your return key, and it's going to throw you into a viewing mode. And it's going to give you this blue use template button up in the top right-hand corner. So now all I have to do is grab this URL, which is pretty ugly. Nobody's going to probably remember this and be able to sit there and type it in. So I'm going to copy this. I'm going to send it in an email. Hey, Desiree, here's that form that you wanted. Just go ahead and use that use template button in the top right-hand corner, and boom, Desiree has a copy of this in her own drive. I am not a collaborator on it. I have no access to it any longer. She can do with it what she wants. She can change the header. She can change the questions. It is a fantastic way, and probably the easiest way that I've seen for people to be sharing out Google Forms. 2 important things: get it into a folder that has anyone with the link can view, change the URL, copy and paste, share it out. If you go to my co-created website, Templates for Teachers, I do have a handful of forms on there that I've used to collect information over the years. That's exactly how I made it work. They're in a folder that anyone can view, and then I changed the URL. It really is that simple if you know the steps. That's the magic sauce in that. All recorded right here in this video. Boom, ready to go. Questions, Desiree? Or can we go back to the beginning and learn something new?
Nope, no questions right now.
All right. Now we're getting down to the bottom. Obviously, if I run out of time, the resources are there. They're just meant to give you further places and ideas and thoughts and people to follow and go find out more information. The add-ons, yes, Form does add-ons. I've got a couple of them listed here. The next one is going to be a huge chunk, guys. Huge chunk. Are you ready? What are things that we can do? And I've talked about several of them. But I've broken it down. It takes us to this new question. And this is where hopefully look at these guys. I'm going to give you a few minutes. I've created little scenarios for each of these. I would really, really love to use the next 40-ish minutes with you guys kind of driving this part of the presentation. Are one of these really sticking out to you? Is there an option on here, a bell ringer? Do you really want to see what that looks like? Do you really want to see what a branching question is? Hint, hint, what I've just used where it drives you to a particular section based on your answer. That's a branching question. If you want to know how to do that, I can jump right to this. If you're interested in doing a password protected form, let me know. Desiree, just if somebody put something in the chat, I'd love to know because I'd really love to make this next big chunk of the presentation really work for you guys. You can come back and access all of these resources all day long. You know, I have no intention of taking this down. So you'll have it for, you know, the next whatever amount of time. But if you really want to go through and then be able to dive in a little deeper, I would love to do this based on someone in the audience really saying, hey, Sarah, hey, Desiree, I really want to learn how to do something.
Branching has one out. So we have about 4 or 5 people that said branching, and we have a couple of people, we have 2 that said digital breakouts, but everybody else said branching. So branching is it.
All right. So let's go into branching because that is like I don't even know how to describe it. It takes a Google form and it completely levels it up. Like we were talking about settings and customization, right? Branching questions. I am going to also point out down here, I've got a couple of additional resources in here. If you have a lot of questions about how do I share a form in Google Classroom, but I want the kids to be able to get the responses and be able to see it, but we don't use email addresses. That's the situation I was in. And I worked through a teacher and I've got an entire workflow. So it's step 1, do this, step 2, do this. I worked it out with a 4th grade teacher who wanted to make sure his kids could see those forms. Just as a side note, this is a blog that I shared on techyoucando.com, step-by-step written instructions videos. Just had to plug that because this is a top ask for a lot of teachers too. Click on that, it'll take you out there. But let's go into branching questions. Anyone, oh shoot, hang on, I got to go into editing. I'm not gonna be able to do this. Oh, hang on, I'm not sure. One moment, please. I'm going to take you into the editing side because I just noticed I have 2 questions that are required, but I don't want to require it. The second one. I want to create, sorry, scrolling. I think I may have missed it. I think I missed it. Hang on. I apologize. I'm finding it. Where, there it is. I'm not going to require this question. Okay, perfect. Sorry about that. I want to create, there we go next. I want to do a branching question. Do you guys remember when we were kids? I mean, you have to be my age-ish, I guess. Do you remember those choose your own adventure stories where you read a page or 2 and then it asks you a question and then you have to make your pick and it says go to page 79 or go to page 4, and then the story continues based on your option. That is exactly how a branching question works in forms. Is you give them some information, whether it's a question, whether it's a scenario, whether it's watch this video and answer this question, or read this passage and answer this question. Branching questions allow you to push your responder either here or there. So based on those questions that I just asked on here, for the auto grading, it's going to take you one place. If you picked password protected, it's going to take you to another place. You want to help students create a survey. That's what I mean by branching questions. And you say, well, Sarah, just get to it. Just want to learn. Okay, so there's blah, 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 all of that information. I've got some tips here, depending on how many questions, how many branches you are creating. Go slowly. Take your time, understand that you are going to make mistakes. I've made plenty of them. You can fix them, okay? It's constantly a learning process. That's what we say to our students. That's what we need to say to ourselves, give ourselves some grace, okay? And then probably the last big thing that you have to understand is when you think that you are done, click on that eyeball at the top that I've done several times and work your way through your form. Try out multiple different scenarios, see how it works. A lot of times that's where I found out, like, oh, I linked them both to the same, or oops, I forgot to require this one, or oops, I required too many of them. Go through it yourself, save yourself a little bit of aggravation and having, but Mrs. Kiefer, this is wrong. Mrs. Kiefer, this isn't, in the middle of class, that gets to be kind of overwhelming. Go through it yourself, but also understand mistakes are okay. That's how we learn. So here are my tips. Right there, read them. And then here is an example of, I want to do a reading passage. Okay. So this one down here is one that's like far more complicated, but incredibly fun. Loved it. So what we're going to do is we're going to create a new Google form, and it's going to be a reading passage. Okay, so this is my reading passage. And what we are going to do, nope, that's the wrong one. We're going to just create, there we go. Let's make a branching. So this is how we're going to make this work. I've got the title of it. Again, customize out the wazoo what you want. The idea behind this one is it's a reading passage, right? So the kids have to read a chunk and then they're answering questions. And then based on their answer, it's going to take them to a branch. So what we're going to do is I already have one. That's the one I opened up. And I'm just going to copy and paste. Come on. This is just a chunk of a passage that my textbook provided. I'm going to add in some text right here. So here is a paragraph that I want my students to read. If you are interested in having it have that ability to be read aloud, remember Mote, you could use Mote to record it. And then notice that it's down below my question, so I just have to shift it. Those 6 little gray dots, and you just pull it around where you need it to be. So that's what they're going to read. And then you say, well, Sarah, that's not branching. No, it's not branching, but now I need to ask a question. And if you think about down the road, these questions have to be linked to something. The only style of question that you can do this with is your multiple choice question. Any of these other options, you're not going to have the ability to go to this based on the answer. You've got to do the multiple choice. Okay, so let's say this is question 1. I'm not even going to put an answer in here because that's really not the goal of this. Fit in your own content or your own answer, questions and answers that you want. Here's option 1, here's option 2, option 3, option 4. Okay, that's a pretty standard multiple choice. Get your question, 4 options. And now we're going to branch them out. Well, What we have to do in order to branch them out is we actually need to cut our form into sections. And that's these two rectangles on top of each other. So here's our second section. So by default, this becomes section 1 when we add another section, and we're going to call this correct. And the first few times that you do this, might be helpful if you say like number 1 correct. Somehow know which one you're tying it to. And that is really helpful when you get into multiple questions that you're trying to branch, or if you think of choose your own adventure, how many different times you had that choice. If you get into where you've got 5, 10, 15 different ones, your form is going to become ginormous. So you got to help yourself out, help your brain be able to match them up. So I'm going to leave this as number 1 correct. You can put in information that you want here. You can add in other questions if you're wanting to go a little bit further. Maybe you want to ask a real simple, like short answer. What makes you give this answer? Again, fit in your content how it's going to be. And now by default, if we've got 1 correct, something's got to be wrong. So we have to repeat this process. I have to add in another section. I have to say number 1 wrong. And again, do you want to give them something to go a little bit in intervention with this? Is this a video that you want to insert so that they can kind of understand? Do you just add in a description and explain to them why the answer that they've chosen is wrong? Think about how you could be there with them without physically being right next to them as they're going through and answering. And then you're not done. It doesn't just happen by magic, right? You're creating this. So you've got to tell the computer, the Google form, go back up to your question. It's a multiple choice. And then when you get over here to your questions, that little skinny snowman down there, remember, he always provides you more options. Click on him. You've got some options here. Level up by shuffling those questions around. The form knows which ones are which. You don't have to. And then your students sitting next to each other, they don't have a clue. Their A, B, C, and D is not A, B, C, and D for their neighbor. You can do that as well. And it won't mess with your branching. Go to section based on the answer. And now, did you see how like it brought it over? And now I have a whole new column that wasn't there before. And I'm ready to say, and this is where my wording on the section titles are very helpful. If option 1 is the correct answer, I'm going to select this one. If option 1 is not a correct answer, I'm going to select this. So again, let's think this through. My students read the passage, they go to answer this. If they select option 1, it's going to take them to that section that says, sorry, you're wrong. If they select option 2, good job, that's the correct answer. And then number 3 then is wrong, and number 4 is wrong. Okay, so you're telling the form based on the option my student picks, this is where they're going to go. For right now, I'm not going to click that required button at all. Okay, I'm just going to leave that go. Use that to level yourself up when you get a lot more comfortable. I would say the first couple of times you make a branching form, keep it simple for yourself. And honestly, when I did these, my intention was never to get a grade out of it, because my wrongs would always refer them back to here. I would say reread it and pick a different answer. Okay, now, again, you might say, well, Sarah, they're just going to keep selecting until they find the right one. They're just correct. But I also use this as a way for my students to hopefully practice some of the reading. Now, you might say, well, Sarah, now let me see what that looks like. Sure enough, click on this little eyeball. So this is the first part. And you notice you cannot see anything beyond this because this is section 1. So they need to read this part, and then they're going to pick an option. They go to next, And it says number 1. And because I've done nothing more with the form, it takes them right to that submit. So let's go back to, and this is what I'm talking about when I say you should go through the form yourself to make sure, check yourself out. Option 2, correct. It takes you right to this. It gave them that next question that I asked because mode is on my account. Again, that's why that little mode icon is there. If they answer that and then they click next, notice it's taking them right to that wrong section. And I'll explain why it's doing that here, because that's the other thing you have to really pay attention to. I'm going to close that form out. Down here, or over here to the right, let's clarify this again. This is where you're saying, based on the answer option, go to this section. On your question, you see where it says after section 1, it says continue to next section. On your question ones, leave that alone. Let it, because it's going to take it to the next section. These are your next sections. Down here for section 2, we don't want them to continue to the next section because the next section is the wrong answer. Okay, so keep that in mind. Down here on section 3, we don't have any questions, so I need to add something in. Do I add in text? Again, am I adding in a video? Am I adding an image? Some sort of intervention for them to kind of do a little bit more learning. You may want to add in another question. And then, so we would call this wrong answer question. And then what are we going to do after this question down here? You can make it another multiple choice. Another idea might be to delete that. And then please try again. I'm going to go ahead and add in another section. And this is going to be maybe section 2, right? So that gives me this ability to say continue to next section with my wrong answer. So here's where I do want to force that navigation. And that's really what you're doing here with these branching. You are forcing the navigation from here to here to here to here or back to here. And what I would do is I would send my students back to the beginning. So that was the first section. And notice they even number them here. So if you have a piece of paper next to you, maybe you could be jotting these down to help your brain remember. And now let's look at what this looks like. So let me go into my preview mode. I'm a student, I read. Let's say I get this option 2, option 3. Yeah, let's go with that one. It's taken me wrong. Please try again. And now when they click next, do you remember where I told the navigation to take me? Right back to that first question. And then they have to come back and have to pick a better answer. And I say option 2. And give me your answer. And I say next. And then what we do at this point, so I've got the first question branched correctly. So now when we are at the correct answer, because I've already made question 2, I can tell if you got it correct, I want you to go to section 4, which is my question 2. Okay, now I feel like for those that are seeing this creation for the first time, this kind of is at the point where people are either like, oh, okay, I get this. I get, you go from A to B to C, or I get people going, I'm lost. So Desiree, are there questions at this point? Is this making sense?
Yeah, I think everybody's good.
Okay. Now, you can go crazy with this, right? Adding in video. We've talked about that. Adding in audio, adding in images, and looping your kids through a lot of different things. Here's where I want to pop into my original presentation. Remember, I promised I would bring you in here. So now that we've kind of laid all of that foundation, I want you to see what could be where you go with this. And again, mine is meant for a presentation. Think of this in any number of ways that you could create a form for students, for parents, for groups that you're involved in. And I want you to look at the scroll bar over here, because that is really what tells you how big of a form it is, because you're only giving chunks of views to your viewers. Notice my scroll bar. I'm scrolling down. My scroll bar is getting, it's a small one, and you can see that it has a long way to travel. So you can see as I built my form, I have 16 sections as it's laid out for my presentation. And you can see a lot of them say continue to the next section. When I click in this question, it says, if you select go back to the beginning, it's going to take you right back to that first section of my form. If you say I'm done learning for the day, it's going to take you to the very end of the form where you can submit it. However, I would say this is not a form where I have any intention of people actually submitting. That's not the purpose of it. You can submit, great, fine, go for it. But each of these sections is intended for a specific purpose. So I've chunked out that information. I just ended up with 16 chunks, and you can see how big this becomes. And you can see where I'm talking about it becoming these big, overwhelming forms that if you are not aware and you're not really paying attention, you could very easily get lost creating all of these different branching questions. Now, what I've added in on this particular section with the creating with forms, I added an additional question to where it takes you back to the very beginning, all the way to the end down here, or I've looped you back to that question where you had those, say, like 8 options of a form that you'd like to create, branching being like the middle one. So you can add in different options on here. And again, pay attention to the option down here at the bottom. This is where I say, oops, I didn't want to pick that one, but you can select any of these different sections for after they've answered here, where are they going? But if you're already forcing the navigation here, don't force the navigation here. It's like those double negatives, and then they just kind of conflict with each other. But the only way you're going to know that is if you go to your eyeball, preview it, and figure that out. All right, are we good on the branching? I'm going to take.
All right, I don't see any questions. I think one person also wanted to see how to do a password, and I know that's shorter than digital breakouts, so I just wanted to tell you that too.
Okay, so I'm back at where we were learning about branching questions. I'm going to select, I want to create something else with forms, not go straight back to the beginning. And the password protection, I want to clarify something here. Please don't use a form and thinking that you're going to password protect something and think that it's going to be like Fort Knox. Okay, kids are smart. Other people out there are going to tell you that kids can break this password. Of course they can, right? But don't let that stop you if that's the purpose of what you need to know. Okay, so this password protected assessment form, maybe it's just one additional way that you can kind of, protect your form that you're going to do. But I just don't want anyone to think that this is infallible. It is not. It can be broken. And depending on how tech savvy your students are, it's possible, right? So basically, you're just going to create a form. Okay, I'm going to go into, that's the side that you can see. So if I want to password protect this form, because I've created something and I don't just want anybody and everybody to be able to answer this. I do want to collect the names, and then I have to, again, it's kind of nice that we're doing this right after branching because you do need to kind of chunk these things out. So I'm going to password protect this. I'm going to add in a section, and you can see that by default, it leaves my information right there. And then here is my actual form that I would have people fill out. But I want to create a password here, right? I don't want them to get to section 2 without having entered that password. And you do that by, anybody guessing? You have to add in a question. And what I've seen probably the best is that you do this as a short answer question, and you just say like, enter the password, or the password is, or phrase it however you want. And then what you're going to do is your skinny snowman down there gives you your options. You're going to use the response validation, which means the answer has to be correct or in some particular form for them to move on. So what you would do here is it gives you some options. And you could say it's a number, it's going to be text, it's going to be a certain length, it's going to be a regular expression. Again, you're going to be coming up with these passwords. You're going to have to be the one that remembers these passwords. You're going to be the one that's sharing these passwords. Make it make sense for your brain. You could do text, and then I would say make it so that it contains, again, it's going to change. If you say number, it's going to give you these different options then for text. And then right in here, what is it going to contain? So you can do A, B, C, D, E, F, right? And then your custom error text, what is it going to tell them? Sorry, try again, right? Now, let's see what that looks like. Always going into that preview mode. Let's check it out. So here's the top of the text. Here's your password. What is my answer? The chances of somebody randomly guessing your password, unless you use the same password over and over again, please don't do that. If I did like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it's not going to let me move past this section. You could try password, right? I mean, they could sit there and they could try any kind of combination, permutation, whatever, all day long until they try. And let's try this one, A, B, C, D, E. Still not right. Well, oh, but that's the password you said. Well, it's got to be all caps, right? Nope. Oh, then I got to go back in here. What did I? Oh, I have the F. See, if you don't remember your own password, it doesn't really help anything, right? And notice as soon as I put that in, it now allows me into the form. Okay, so it's pretty simple as long as you know how to set it up with the validation. And if you don't want that validation on there, you can just uncheck it and it goes away. But think about student brains. And I think I just read something yesterday, that if kids are willing to cheat, it's because they're more concerned about actually just getting that grade as opposed to doing the learning. So I would say that if that is your concern, okay, passwords are going to be one level of, I don't know, security protection if you wanted to. But from class to class, like if I'm in period 1, all I have to do is go tell Maddie in period 5, hey, Mrs. Kiefer said the password is capital A, capital B, capital C, blah, 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 right? They could share that password. So you're going to have to be prepared for that. And if you're using the same form over and over again, let me show you a pretty easy option though. You ready? If you don't want kids from period 1, if you want to use the same password, or maybe you don't want to use the password, let me give you an option here. In your responses tab, you ready? This is something that is pretty amazing. Turn off accepting responses. Okay. So I'm going to say there's going to be a little message there, no longer accepting responses. So let's say Maddie in period 1 tells Sarah in period 5, hey, go ahead and click on the link, or even sends me the link to the form, because kids, whatever. And I click on it. If the teacher has turned off the ability to respond, I can't see the form. And even I, as the creator, when I preview it, guess what? Sorry. Now, this blue link right here is because I am the editor. Kids won't see this. So the form password protected form is no longer accepting responses. Please contact the owner if you think this is a mistake. That's what the kids will see. I see this because I created the form. And so when period 5 comes in, they're ready to take this. All I have to do is turn it back on. It has no bearing on the link that has been sent out. It has no bearing on that password that you've created if you want to keep that same password. So again, if that is a concern, and I know that that's a concern for a lot of teachers, try going into the responses and turning that right off, and then nobody can respond because they can't see the form in the first place. So hopefully that's a good little tech you can do tip that you'll take with you. All right, digital breakouts. We have time, trust me, because of what we just talked about. So let's go back and create something else with forms. Come down here. Again, these ones that we did not get to, guys, the information, the fake forms, the links to additional resources and all that, they're all right there. They're not going anywhere. For a digital breakout, these are super fun. Super fun. Love doing these. And digital breakouts are very, very popular out there. A lot of people have created digital breakouts, and forms is a great foundation for the answers. Like maybe they're using a Google site to house the entire thing, or the bulk of the breakout is on paper, but all of the answers are going to be on a Google form. That might be, that little mix of things. I do have a whole entire Wakelet collection of digital breakouts. Tanya Coffey is probably my favorite digital breakout creator. This is right here. Math teachers in the house, please do yourselves a favor and come check out this area of shapes digital breakout. I was blown away because you think of digital breakouts as like games. This is truly like a math learning activity. Okay, mind blowing. I cannot say enough about this. Megan Kelly is the author. Phenomenal. You've got to check it out. This whole digital breakout, and it is in this Wakelet collection. Go there. There's a lot of breakouts already collected. They're ready to go. Share them. Get yourself comfortable with them too. But we're going to jump into a form. And this is what you would give to the kids to collect all of their digital answers. And as one might imagine, all you're doing is verifying that their answers are correct. Like that's how they know they've broken that code. Easy enough, right? If you know how to build it. So on the edit side of this, guess what we're going to use? Remember the whole password validation? Yep, you got it. So we're going to come down into our snowman. We're going to use that response validation. And again, digital breakouts tend to have like a 4-letter code. So maybe code 1 is a 4-letter code. So then this would have to be text, right? And contains 4 letters, right? Yeah, because that's the whole name of the code. Like maybe it's Ohio. Keep in mind, capitalization will count. Okay, so if these are all capitalized, you saw that on the other validation that I did, it does impact the answer. Okay, so keep that in mind. Maybe it spells out something. Maybe it doesn't. Maybe it's a random 4 letters. Again, you're the one coming up with code, so have fun. And what I like to do when I've created digital breakouts is on the custom error text. A lot of times I try to give a hint. Like remember that capitalization is important, or maybe it's because they're the breakout that they're doing, that particular problem to get the answer to code 1 is a math question. Maybe you remind them, double check your addition or whatever the topic is. So then code 1, maybe code 2 is a 5-number code. So again, in your response validation, you're going to pick a number, and it's going to be equal to, again, and for math teachers, this is one thing that is kind of like a common question. Do you require the comma? Do you not require the comma? If I've got 5 numbers, obviously there should be a comma in there. That's one of those things that I leave to your math professional mind. If you want to have the 5 numbers just be straight 5 numbers, if you want to have it see, it's not even going to let you do that. That's one of those things that you have to either work through in your own mindset, or you have to just really explain to the kids. Custom text error is also a wonderful thing to be able to do. So I've got 2 codes in there, a letter code, a number code, and you can do mix and match too. So let's preview this. So for my 4-letter code, if I typed in Sarah, see, and I just move on. Oops, sorry, didn't want to do that. So when I type Sarah and I move down to the next one, it's going to tell me that error code. What if I typed in Ohio and I move down? What if I typed in love? Hey, I got it. And then you move on to this 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I didn't add any. Oops, see now. That's good to know. It tells you that it must be a number equal to 10,000. You definitely want to make sure that you come down here and give it an error text. Oops. Right? And now we're going to have to refresh this. That's okay. We got this one right. We'll move on to number 3. So you see how that response validation is where the key is for your digital breakouts. And again, just go down. And honestly, too, what I want to point out here is if these digital breakouts potentially could last over multiple days, now that it's going to save the responses in Google Forms, it's not such a big deal. But these would be easy things for the kids, like, oh, I got code 1 right, writing down what the code is on a piece of paper and then being able to loop back to it on another day. It's not the end of the world. But that whole being able to save your progress Google Forms that's coming out works really nicely for these digital breakouts. All right, Desiree, I see that we're quickly running out of time. Before we leave the digital breakouts, are there any questions on this?
No, ma'am.
Okay, so then are there any questions in general?
Not at this time.
Okay, so math teachers out there, because I was sharing my love of this, I have to point you in this direction, this particular digital breakout, because I did a very, very simplified digital breakout. This one is phenomenal. She actually has it housed on a website. It's called Escape the Dungeon. It has like a whole story behind it, right? So think about how awesome that is. And you can read about her whole adventure with this. So this is her website. Here's where the kids are typing in all those codes, just like, remember what I was just showing you how we created. But here are her code activities, if you will. So you go to code 1, and it's a part of the story. So then here's an image, and you go, oh, an envelope's been pushed into the door. What could it be? You're gonna click on that little image. It's going to pop you out. The students have to go ahead and make a copy of this. Tell me if this is not like a phenomenal math learning adventure that these kids could go on. Now you go, wow, yeah, this is obviously for a little bit older students, but the kids are going to be dragging and dropping these different area formulas in here. And then notice these numbers on the side. This is where I was kind of like, oh, this is interesting. So I'm going to take this, I'm going to pop this up here. I'm going to take, and I am not trying to actually answer these correctly, so please do not, come on. Please do not, come on, just let me move you. This is, nope. Got to get this up here. And then we're going to click on this one, get my little 4 arrows, move it up here, and then click on this one and get the 4 arrows. I just want to show you how this one works because I was fascinated by this one. So then you see how you're adding these numbers up. You change the number in here to be what it is. And then on slide 3, after you work through these 4 sections, on slide 3, you pop these numbers in and you get an answer. And then that's the answer to code 1. Now, here's the thing that drove me batty. I think I got it wrong the first time and I had to go, you know what I did? I couldn't remember exactly, what was the perimeter of a square? Guys, they can use their resources to search this stuff. Or this could be a really awesome assessment of, do you know your formulas? It's not, are you applying those formulas, but are you remembering those? And it's all built into this digital breakout. The kids will work at it. They might get a little frustrated, but they're going to work at it. And that's just the beauty of how you can take forms. And here we were adding sites and slides and all that kind of stuff, but it's an adventure and it's a lot of work. But you come up with something like this and you just go, kids, let's learn. This is so much fun. So much fun. All right, Desiree, I'm going to stop there. It's 2:56. And I'll let you wrap up if you had anything that you wanted to say or do, or.
Someone asked if you could share the link to what you showed, but I think, isn't it in your form?
To that digital breakout?
Maybe.
Yes. If you're talking about this escape the dungeon, it is on creating with forms. So on that first page, you say, I want to create something with forms. Go to the digital breakout options. On the second page, it is this one right here, area of shapes. Phenomenal. Oh my gosh. Like if I was a math teacher, and I'm not a math teacher, I would totally have my kids do this. It's already ready. She's got it all prepared, ready to go. It's out there. And the link is right here. She's shared it out. It's not like I've asked, like she's just put it out there. Okay, so enough.
I will say we've had a request for you to do a webinar on moat. And I was like, ooh.
I love me moat.
That may be an interesting thing. We also had it for Wakelet, and I was like, she's already done Wakelet. Here's the Wakelet one. So, and for my people listening to this on the YouTube channel, I will put the link to her Wakelet webinar underneath the video. But we may be doing a moat one. We will see. And what I'll do right now is I will make it to where you can unmute yourself. So you can unmute yourself now if you would like to ask a question on the mic. Going once.
Hang on, I think there was one that popped in the chat. Escape rooms for elementary. Kathy, go to my Wakelet for digital breakouts. Tanya Coffee has so many different breakouts. I don't know 100% that she has any on multiplication, but I think I may know that, Kathy. We could totally, like, if you wanted to, you and I could talk through that and we could create whatever it is that you wanted to, because, and look at that escape the dungeon one too. I think you'll find a lot of inspiration on that, and we can totally use that to create a multiplication one. I think the kids would find that so fun. The only hesitation that I say with digital breakouts is your students that school comes to very, very easily. They're the ones that are going to struggle because they're going to expect the stuff to come like this. Those are the ones that you watch. And I put that out there. I have had kids cry because they can't get it the first time. And that's very frustrating for them. But that's where I say they need to struggle a little bit. They need to work through that. They need to get that process of, I'm not always right, and learning how to deal with that. That's a very, very valuable skill. But Kathy, reach out to me. I'll reach out to you. Like I said, I might know how I can help you out with that one.
Yeah, I said, I think that's a great idea. I would love to see some more with the multiplication after they are have learned their facts, and maybe as a like enrichment activity when they finish with their activities, other things they could maybe do something like that.
Absolutely. And then Kathy, if you think about it, you create one, And then you could just easily duplicate that. Think how many more options you have, because you would just change the numbers with your actual multiplication thing. So it'll take a little bit of time, but I think the kids would love that.
I do too. Okay. Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Inky, yeah, changing the number, the operation, absolutely, just constantly keeping their little brains moving.
Sarah, that was amazing. We've had so many comments already. They're just like, I didn't know you could do all of this with forms. So thank you so much. That was pretty incredible in 2 hours.
Yeah, shoving a lot with your boyfriend, Desiree. I hope you're okay with me.
I guess.
That time.
I guess.
I'm pretty tight with him too. Just saying.
Well, I don't know about all that, but we'll see. We'll see, Sarah.
We'll duke it out.